Hey, welcome back. This is going to be the next tiled video here. Basically, this is the next step for our map mod editor, talking about all of the tools that we can use up here in order to build our buildings or a house. Let's start with the very first tool, the draw room tool. This is the one that comes selected by default. This allows you to draw a room. By clicking and dragging, you can select an area that'll basically draw a room. If you go into the ortho mode, you'll notice that these areas will be selected and will shine in the color. Going to ISO mode, you'll notice that those areas will have walls, interior walls and exterior walls, along with a floor. By holding the control button, you can delete those rooms. Basically, this is what's going to allow us to draw rooms. These rooms will have two different names. One is going to be the label that we're going to read for, our sakes, for example, living space room. However, they're also going to have a secondary name, which is going to be the quote-unquote internal name. This is basically a name that the Zomboid will read, and if it is a specific key name, that will affect the type of loot that appears in that room. If we look at these base Suburban 1 rooms that are here, the loot that appears in the hall will be different than the loot that appears in the kitchen versus the bedroom and so forth. So it is important to know what kind of loot there is. I have this rooms definition link. This is from the pzwiki.net. I always find this extremely useful. Whoever made this, thank you, because this has been insurmountably useful. The way that this is, I'm going to link this in the description. The way that this is used is basically it's the room definitions and the item spawns. So over here is a fun little kind of scrollable map. These are the actual room definitions. So what I would input into Tile Editor, I'll show you where. This is where these names would go. If we scroll down, you're like, oh, newspaper print. Yeah, I do want to make a newspaper print building. You can click on this to basically be taken to that specific spot. The way that we use this is if I make a room called newspaper print, inside of that room, when I make a crate, it's going to have a newspaper hat in it. When I make a metal shelf, it's going to have a newspaper hat in it. Now, some of these containers, or a lot of these containers, also have pre-programmed base spawns. So if in the newspaper print I put in metal lockers, which are not metal shelves, or if I put dressers, which are neither crates nor metal shelves, those might not have newspaper hats in them. They might have some other random loot that might not belong in that room. So this is why it's important, when I love using this a tool, because it helps me understand and therefore hone in on what I want to create. For example, the first room that I was going to put in, let me go back to my tiled here, is a living room. So if I go back to rooms definitions, I'm going to look for L. You can also do Control F, right, and then find living room. But I'm just going to go ahead and walk it. Let's see. JKL. Where is living room? Here it is. Now notice how it's all lowercase, all one word. Let me click on this. Here is living room. The containers that I can put in a living room are going to be a counter, a crate, a freezer, overhead, shelves, side table, wardrobe. And for each one of these are the types of things that will spawn at random in there. So if I put a counter in a living room, there are a chance that revolvers and pistols might appear. We can also get plastic bags, muffins, tomato paste, etc. That's cool to know. If I'd rather have crates, that'll be like microwaves can appear in there, walkie-talkies, skill books, etc. So that's something to note, right? If you put a freezer in the living room, right? Bacon, oysters, mutton chop. This is how you use this page. I usually have this open on my second screen. If you only have one screen, you can always snap it to the side and then, basically go back and forth, being like, all right, cool. What do I want to use? So you can look at what the definitions are. So How do we use these definitions? That's where this button right here goes. This button is the Edit Rooms button. This is going to edit the rooms that are available to us or that exist right now. I'm going to go ahead and select it. This opens up. This is where we see the regular name. This is what the name that we're going to see, the creator. It doesn't matter what this name is. That's just what's going to be when we select it in the drop down. Control Z to undo. The internal name is the name that has to match these specific room definitions. If this is hall all lowercase, then that means that it's going to be, and sometimes this page does take a while because it has a lot of really great information. It's going to be hall all lowercase. Counters, laundry dryer basic, lockers, and shelves magazines will have these kinds of spawns. So just be aware that that is effectively how this works. If you hit the plus button here, you get to create a brand new room. You can call it whatever you want. For example, if I take this over here and I say, all right, Foss oil. So I can control copy or type it in, control paste, and I can call this, garage. So this name doesn't matter. For me, I'm just like, yeah, that's the kind of room that I want to make. Whatever internal name you give it, it is irrelevant. Whatever regular name you give it is irrelevant. The internal name is going to determine what these types of containers spawn. For example, metal shelves have some sort of basic default type of items that it spawns. But if you put a metal shelf within a fossil internal name room, it'll start popping out bottles of gasoline, chocolate cake slices, tortilla chips, etc. Now, when you draw with these rooms, as you saw previously, it had walls, floors. This is where you get to decide what floor and what wall and whether it has grime on there get built with the room when you use this build room tool. So this new random fossil garage, the base seems to be this fence. The trim is some wooden panel. No floors, no grime, no grime. So I can double click here on interior walls, or I can click the choose button. Again, I want to let you know that I have added walls and different things into this interior walls section, which is at the top over here, by double clicking and adding different tiles. Yours will look different than mine. I have manually gone one by one and added these. You can also hit the tiles button here to do exactly that. So this interior walls, this is what we're looking at. I've effectively gone through and typed in things like walls or fence. And then I've gotten here and been like, all right, I want this fence. Because I noticed that all of them are facing this way. I found the fence that looks like that. Clicked and dragged it. And then that added it over. That added over here. I can go ahead and zoom out by doing this. And that's how I added this whole category of fencing 001. That came from automatically just clicking and dragging and dropping. So that's how I added these into here and why mine looks different. All right, I'm going to hit X. But anyways, this is effectively where you get to choose your interior wall. So this is going to be the wall when the player is inside of the room. What kind of wall does it going to look like? Now, I said that it's going to be a garage. If I scroll down, I'll notice, hey, look, this says garage. It's a garage section. Look, walls, garage. Cool. Let's make it a dark color. Hit OK. So now all walls when I draw this map are going to be that color. Now this trim is going to be basically something goes on top of the wall. So this is some brown wooden trimming. Apparently it's part of an industry bunker. But it's a garage. I don't want any fancy wall trim. So I'm going to hit OK. Now for you, you might want one. It doesn't matter. For floors, again, you can double click or hit the choose button. And then you get to pick floors. Again, if my floors don't match yours, that's okay. I've just added them. So these look to be exterior natural. Because it's a garage, I'm going to find something that looks like concrete to me. Looks like that. You can hit OK, or you can double click it. Now it's going to build that. For grime, right, you can simply double click, choose the type of grime to be like, yeah, it's going to look gross. The walls are all going to look like this, and the floors are all going to look like that. I simply hit OK, and now in this drop down, I notice that the garage is there. And when I draw a garage, here we are. That is going to be our cement floor, cement walls, and you notice the grime around the edges of the room and the edges of the walls. So that is effectively how we pick these rooms here for the edit room and the draw room tools. Real quick as an aside, everything that we've done is the interior, right? I chose the interior walls. I chose the floor. What about these exterior walls? How do we change those? How do we affect them? All of the exterior walls for your building, for this building that you're building, are gonna be exactly the same. Doesn't matter how many rooms you build, whether they're connected or separated. If you make one ginormous room and you're like, I'm going to make multiple buildings within that giant room, they're all going to have the same exterior. The way that you change it is you go to building and you go to properties. These building properties are basically the defaults that you're going to work with. Ultimately, they can all change, and it's not going to be a problem. The only one that will affect things is the exterior wall. If I change this exterior wall to anything else, that'll change all the exterior walls once I hit OK or apply to all of your buildings. So just be aware, that's how you can change your exterior wall, and it'll affect all of your rooms, everything. All right. Cool. With that being said, let's go ahead. Well, this seems to be just a video about the draw room. We'll move on to the other tools here in the next video. All right, we'll see you in a bit. Talk to you soon.